everybody, this is Alyce-Kay Rucklehouse from Threshold of Hineni, and this is part 2 of working on my mom's Mother's Day gift and talking about her. And she's a pretty interesting person, so you might enjoy listening to her story from my point of view. Anyway, there were a couple of things that I was thinking about while I was sorting through stuff that I had forgotten to say. And one was that my mom had this phrase that she said all the time, and it was, "I vaguely remember." And my little brother, I mean, he had to have been like 2 or so at the time, he would go around saying, "I vaguely remember," and he had no idea what it meant, and he never used it right or anything, but it was really, really funny. Okay, I'm trying to kind of juggle here and stay in camera. So, okay, so Mom, what these are is these are going to be little writing spaces for you. The pictures on the front are kind of dark, and I'm not sure if you can write over them. You might be able to, but the backs of each page are light enough to write on for sure. Anyway, so yeah, my brother, he would go around saying, "I vaguely remember." And so that was pretty funny. And then I also, oh yeah, I have this really, really distinct memory, and this must have been in Visalia because I was pretty young. I mean, I was only 5 when we moved to Santa Clara, but anyway, I remember the sun was shining in through the window on the table, on the kitchen table, and we were having lunch, and there was a checkered yellow tablecloth. I mean, I just remember this so clearly. But this is just kind of an illustration of how my mom talked about God all the time with us. And I think I shared in another video about how, you know, my parents just raised me believing in God. You know, they didn't raise me in a religion. They raised me in actually believing in God and loving Him and wanting to serve Him, and I'm just really, really grateful for that. But anyway, so this is just like one of my memories that I have of my mom is, and my mom's still alive, by the way, just in case it sounds like she's dead from the way I'm talking. That's horrible. Anyway, she's very, very much alive. She's walking across the U.S. and for the second time. And anyway, I remember asking, and my brother, I think, was also in on the conversation, so you know, he had to have been old enough to be talking, and we were asking my mom about, like, when is Jesus coming back, and she said he could come anytime, we don't know. And so we were like, could he come tomorrow? Could he come right now? You know, and we just had this really long conversation about, could he come here? Could he come? And I know my mom was just like really, really patient with the same basic question over and over and over. She just really loved to talk about the Lord. And that influenced me a great deal. And I am very, very grateful for that. Both of my parents really loved to talk about the Lord. You know, I was going to glue this on, but I could sew it, and that would just stay a whole lot better. I'm going to do that. I'm going to sew this. So, yeah, so anyway, so that was a memory from, I'm pretty sure, Visalia. And let's see, so Children's Church and VBS in Santa Clara, and the ladies group. And I don't know all that much about the ladies group because I was a kid, and so, you know, obviously I wasn't involved in it. It was pretty much like they didn't have it anymore by the time that I was an adult, which was really a bummer to me because growing up I had really, really looked forward to getting to be part of the Mary Martha group. And I won't take the time right now to explain the story of Mary and Martha in the Bible, but I will try to remember to link that below in the description, and I will also link below the link to my mom's journal for this walk. But if you're seeing this in the newsletter, you know, I have my usual link to her journal in there. Okay, let's see how this works. I've never thought of sewing this part in before. I've always just glued it, but sewing would just be so much better. And I love the texture of stuff sewn into the journal too. So yeah, oh my goodness, why did I never think of that before? That is so much better. Okay, so see, Mom, this gives you like a whole bunch of writing space here on the backs of this, you know, maybe up here at the top, but probably not here and here. And then you can glue pictures or whatever you want to onto those pages and here. So that'll be cool. Okay. So, what was I saying? I was saying something about my mom. Anyway, oh, the ladies group, I think. Anyway, yeah, so I think that's all I was going to say, was that I don't really know that much about what went on. I think it was basically a service organization kind of thing, like a service club kind of thing, that they did stuff for the church. Isn't that pretty? I loved that. I really faded it out so you could write on it, but I thought it was really pretty. And a lighthouse, of course. So, what was I going to say? So, anyway, so when I was in high school, I mean, my parents were really, really involved in our lives. And my brother, a few or a couple of his friends, you know, were having problems in their homes. And so my parents took them in. And they lived with us, and their dog, you know, one of them, his dog became our dog and stuff. And, you know, and that was just really, I don't know, that was a really good example, I think, to all of us kids. And yeah, so anyway, so when I was in high school, my parents were one of the youth directors. And it was kind of cool because all of us kids, oh, I guess I should go back a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to remember probably all the really important points. It's just whatever comes to mind while I'm doing this. Okay, that's too tall. Oh dear, what do I cut off, the top or the bottom? I guess the bottom. When I was 5, I think, my parents started sponsoring a little girl through World Vision. And if you're not familiar with that, I will link that below in the description too. And anyway, you don't adopt through World Vision. World Vision, you sponsor a kid. But this little girl was in the orphanage. She had been abandoned and found in Seoul, Korea. And when we were sponsoring her, she became adoptable. And they called my parents and asked if they wanted to adopt her, and my parents said yes. So that's how I got my sister. Wasn't the usual way. Anyway, I shouldn't have said that. That sounds horrible. Anyway, so she came. She was, well, they thought she was 5. That's the age that they estimated. But I've since learned that orphanages often estimate children to be younger than they actually are because they're more likely to get adopted. And our dentist, when he examined her, said that she was probably 2 years older than they had told us. Okay, that one's supposed to go with the other ones. Put it there. So anyway, so she probably is actually like a year older than me instead of a year younger. But anyway, so they adopted her. And when we went to the airport, it was so different, you guys, from how you do adoptions, international adoptions nowadays. You know, like now people go to the country to spend some time, get to know the kids, so the kid's not terrified, and you know, and you go there and bring them home. Well, back then, what they did, at least in her case, was they sent a whole bunch of the kids from the orphanage over with one of the workers. That needs to be turned under a little bit more. with some of the workers. I think each one had a different child or something that they were in charge of, and we had to bring clothes with us to change her into. So they brought her on the plane, which, 5 years old, that's a little scary to begin with. And then, they changed her into clothes that she wasn't used to and gave her to my parents, and that was it. The handoff was just like really, really quick. And so my sister, of course, is screaming her head off in the airport. And probably it looks like we were kidnapping her or something. I remember they had a really hard time getting her into the car. So that was a really big thing. And my sister is very well adjusted now and everything somehow after all that trauma. And my parents had a man come over, I think every Sunday or so, to talk to her in Korean because they wanted her to, not forget Korean. So that was pretty cool. And then also a couple years later, they adopted my brother, who was from the U.S., but he's African American and Chinese. So my mom always said that we had a mini UN. And so that was really neat growing up. Anyway, so each of us kids was officially a year apart. Like I said, my sister was probably in reality a year older than me, but her official age was a year younger than me. So there was me, and then she was a year younger, and then my brother, who was a year younger than her, and then my other brother, who was a year younger than him. And so it was, we were all in high school at the time. That's the point that I was making, was that all four of us were in high school at the time, and my parents decided to be youth leaders. And I think that all of the youth leaders that year might have been parents. I remember it was a really big deal to us kids at first that we did not want our parents to be the youth leaders. And I don't really remember why. I mean, I think it was just, you want your independence from your parents. People took it as, oh, are you guys doing something really bad that you don't want your parents to know about or anything? I think it was just, when you're a teenager, you want to be independent. So, but anyway, it ended up being fine. It was actually really good. It was very cool because the youth retreats and stuff like that turned into family vacations, basically. And, Anyway, so it was really cool. They were youth leaders with us. And I can't remember if it was when I was in junior high or in high school that my parents, I think I was in junior high, when my parents went to a marriage encounter, which is it was Catholic. I'm not sure if they actually went to a Catholic one or not, but they went to a marriage encounter and they really, really loved it. And so they got involved in, I think, a Protestant version of it. I'm not real clear on all this. I was pretty active in my school. I was yearbook editor, and I was, doing stuff with the youth group, and I went on team missions. So there's a lot that is kind of, I don't really know about on this, but anyway, the outcome of it eventually was that they and two other couples, the Sons and the Buchanans, started a marriage ministry called Christian Marriage Fulfillment. It was really neat. And it was really neat growing up with that going on. I think they started that when I was in high school. I'm not sure. Anyway, it was just really cool growing up with that. And getting to know the people, not only the Sons and the Buchanans, but others who were in leadership with that. It's like we just had this amazing family, influencing us, basically. And just really, really neat people. And something else I was going to say about that, but I can't remember. Anyway, if it comes to me, I may just tell you out of context, out of sequence. But, I guess the other thing I was going to mention about that, it wasn't about the marriage encounter thing, but it was, just the kind of home that I grew up in, that my parents provided, was pretty extraordinary. I did not realize it at the time, but it was not normal, I guess. But it was good, not normal in good ways. My dad ended up working for Overseas Crusades, and he was the director of administrative services, I believe. And so we grew up having people in our home, missionaries in our home, when they were, home for a couple weeks or something, or for a few days or whatever, or maybe they were on furlough and just needed a place to stay for a few days. But we always had, not always, but we often had missionaries in our home for meals, for overnight, for whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like you grow up with these really, really extraordinary people that that you don't realize are really amazing people. Am I doing this right? Yeah, I am. Okay. I was doing the wrong side. And that's just, yeah, I mean, it was just really extraordinary. And like, I remember going to the office with my dad, and Bud Schaefer spending like an hour with me, just talking to me and stuff. And it was like, I didn't think anything of it then, and now I'm just like, wow. And just anyway, really, really cool people. And so, that's the kind of home that my parents provided us with, was just these really neat people. And they would take us to these missions conferences that Overseas Crusades had that were a week long, and they were kind of our high point of the year. They were so cool, with speakers and kids events and creek walking up at Mount Hermon and just all these really cool things. Anyway, it was really neat. So also someplace in there, I think I was in junior high, but I'm not sure, my mom decided to go to school to be a medical assistant. And so, this needs to be cut slightly. And so she did that. I don't know how long it took her to get whatever degree or certification she needed for that. I do remember that one time my brother was sick and couldn't go to school, and my mom needed to go to class, and so you know what, I'm not going to tell tales out of school. I just realized he might not want to have this public. It's really funny. So if he does want to, he can let me know, and I'll tell the story in another one. But anyway, it was pretty funny what happened. And it wasn't, he didn't do anything bad or anything like that. It was just like really funny. But anyway, so my mom, I think she worked as a medical assistant for a short time, maybe a year or two, and then decided that we needed her at home still. And so we really did need her at home. And so she stayed home with us. But I think she really enjoyed doing the medical assistant stuff, and I think, she really sacrificed by giving that up and staying home with us still, at a time when probably we should have been able to handle it by ourselves, but it turned out that nope, we really needed her. And so she sacrificed and stayed home with us, which was very nice, because I think it had always been kind of her dream to be a nurse, and she didn't get to be a nurse, but this was like the closest to it. And I don't think she ever went back to do that again. Anyway, so in that time, and I think this was actually like when I was in college. Yeah, it was when I was in college that my grandma came to live with my parents, and I was in college by then, so I was only home during the summers. Well, I said that on a little crooked, but it's okay, right? It's a junk journal. Right, Mom? because if I take it out, it's gonna like leave all the holes from sewing, so I'm not gonna take it out. Anyway, so about that time, my grandma moved in with my family. She had, lived in Visalia in a trailer for a number of years by herself after my grandpa died. And then she moved up to Santa Clara so that she would be closer for my mom and one of my other aunts to take care of. And eventually she got to the place where she just really needed full-time care. And so she came to live with us. And yeah, so anyway, I was at college, so I don't know, most of what was going on or anything. I would, like, I got to grandma sit some and everything, and that was really fun, actually. I think that's going to be a place for something like that. And, grandma would tell me stories and everything, and I really loved having her there. And I know that my mom had to she had to sacrifice quite a bit for taking care of grandma and stuff too. I mean, that's just, that's part of when you have a parent that you're taking care of. And anyway, so during that time, I think my mom's blood pressure started going up or something. And so I'm looking for one more place to have one of these things. Yeah, maybe here on this. Anyway, so I think it was because of her blood pressure. And so her doctor, this is kind of a pivotal point, her doctor suggested that she walk for 15 minutes a day. Well, with my grandma there, and my grandma was in a wheelchair, my mom would just, take my grandma out with her in her wheelchair. And if it was cold, she'd bundle her up, and my grandma loved it. My grandma really, really appreciated getting to go out on these outings and stuff. And, it's like 15 minutes. Why stop there, right? So they would go and they would just, walk and walk and walk. And, my mom jokingly would say that she misunderstood her doctor, that he said 15 minutes and she thought he said 15 miles. Ha ha. So anyway, so that's kind of how she started doing all this like long distance walking. Okay, so we're at like about 30 minutes, and so I want to stop here and start a new video. Okay, I love you all. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.